Hey guys, Zaman
and Christina
from Our Rich Journey. On today's video, we are talking about taking a mini retirement while you are on your journey towards early retirement. Now, if you've never heard of what a mini retirement is, just think about quitting your job right now and taking 1, 2, or 3 years off to do whatever you want to do. But then after that period is done, you have to go back to work. Because after all, it's a mini retirement. You see, this concept is something that Christina and I considered many times when we were on our journey towards early retirement. And so in this video, we want to talk about the pros and cons of taking a mini retirement while you are pursuing early retirement.
But before we get started, if you are new to our channel is all about making, saving, and investing money on the road to financial independence. Aman and I pursued financial independence for 8 years. We reached our goal, quit our jobs, and retired before the age of 40. So if you are interested in learning more about ways to make, save, and invest money, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram. So in order to get started, let's really define what we mean by mini retirement. So when we talk about this concept, we're talking about the intentional separation from work for a period of time. And that period of time can be up to you, but a lot of people choose to do somewhere between 1 to 3 years. But it is a complete separation from your job. You are living during this mini early retirement completely off of your savings or your investments.
Now notice that Christina put a typical time frame on how long a mini early retirement could be, because usually at a certain point you run out of money and you have to go back to work.
So with that being said, let's talk about the general appeal of a mini retirement, because like Aman said, we actually considered this on our journey to FIRE, but the general appeal to a mini retirement is this concept that the FIRE process, reaching FIRE, can take a very long time. And as you're waiting for this, sometimes some of the things that you want to pursue can pass you by. But if you're able to take this mini retirement during pivotal moments in your life, that can allow you to enjoy those things that you want to enjoy during a mini retirement. So another reason why it could be so appealing is because sometimes you may be in a situation where you're just in a very toxic work environment, and it wouldn't even help to simply switch jobs. Maybe you just need a reset. You need a time away from work so that you can rest up physically and mentally to prepare yourself to work again.
Now, all this may sound so appealing that you are ready to run to your job right now, put in your notice, and take your mini early retirement. But just tap the brakes for a moment and let's go over the pros and cons of doing something like this. The first pro is that by taking this mini early retirement, you get a taste of what a full-blown early retirement would be like. You would see if it suits you.
And I love this idea that you could sort of test the waters with your early retirement when you do that mini early retirement. We have a lot of people that reach out to us that talk about their plans for early retirement. Some people have it down to every single minute detail. They know exactly what they're going to be doing in retirement. And then other people sort of question what would they be doing during retirement. So by doing a mini retirement, you get to experience what it would be like if you reach FIRE and you actually retire permanently. The next pro is that by taking this mini early retirement, you have an opportunity to enjoy things at the prime of your life. And I'll give you an example. If you're talking about retiring for a finite period of time right now versus retiring maybe 20, even 30 years from now, there's probably a lot of things that you can do physically now that you won't be able to do later down the line. The next pro, and this is actually a really big one, is that it requires a lot less money to do a mini early retirement versus the full-blown FIRE, reaching financial independence, retiring early permanently.
And the last pro is that your mini retirement may give you the inspiration to continue on your journey towards FIRE. Shoot, it may even make you get there faster because after you have experienced it, you know what the eventual goal will be. You will know what the promised land looks like, and you will work that much more harder to get there. So when you finally go back to work, you will be focused on making more, saving more, and investing more to achieve financial independence and retire early permanently.
Okay, so we love that idea, getting extra inspiration and motivation to permanently reach FIRE. But before we get ahead of ourselves, we also do need to focus on the cons, because there are cons associated with pursuing a mini retirement as well. And the first big major con is that it can sometimes actually slow down your journey to FIRE as well. Ahmad was just talking about the inspiration and potentially getting there quicker, but you have to realize that when you do a mini retirement, you are living off of your savings and your investments. And at the same time, you're not bringing in a salary, so you're not able to invest during that time. And that can take a chunk of money from your overall FIRE number.
Now, this is a very important point, because when you are building your wealth towards your FIRE number, you are also building up momentum. And when that momentum is going, like it was for us, because our journey was supposed to be a 10-year journey towards FIRE, it ended up being an 8-year journey because of our financial and our investment momentum. And so if you take this break to take a mini retirement, it's gonna affect the momentum growth of your investments.
Another con is that the longer that you're out of the workforce, it may be more difficult to rejoin the workforce again after your mini early retirement.
And our last con, and this one we think about all the time, is once you have tasted early retirement, once you have tasted this life, it is very hard to go back to work. And so it is going to be a real shock to anyone that has been enjoying a mini retirement to have to go back to their cubicle and sit at a desk. I mean, imagine going on vacation. It's hard for you to go back to work after a 2-week vacation. Imagine a 3-year mini retirement and having to go back to work. It will be very hard for a lot of you.
Okay, so not to be too negative about the whole thing, because we had to finish off with the cons, but we do actually think, looking at the pros and the cons, that this mini retirement can be a very viable option for a lot of people. So with that said, what we want to do now is we want to talk about some of the things that you should think about if you do decide to go this route of having an early mini retirement. So the first thing you really want to think about is, how are you going to be living off of your investments or your savings?
Now you have to think very strategically about this, because if you are living off of, let's say, a stock portfolio, what happens if the stock market crashes at a time that you're pulling from that portfolio? It may reduce the amount of time that you are able to live on this mini early retirement. So there are some things that you may have to do to your investment portfolio in order to sustain yourself during this early mini retirement.
The next thing you want to keep in mind are work-related skills. If you have a job that requires the maintenance of these work-related skills, how do you plan on maintaining them during your early mini retirement?
I think that is a good question, because speaking from experience, if I had to maintain my work skills in retirement, I wouldn't do a very good job at it, because I would be busy enjoying my early retirement. So I think this is something that a lot of people, they say that they're gonna be able to do, but when you are truly in your early retirement, on this mini retirement lifestyle, the challenge is, how do you stay up to date on the latest news and happenings in your career field if you're nowhere near it? So this is a challenge that I think you really need to think about. Now this brings us to our last point. You must have a plan in place to re-enter the workforce. Know how you're going to do that before you start your early mini retirement.
So by this we mean, are you going to go back to your original employer? Are you going to look for other employers once you return to the workforce? Are you considering potentially even changing your career path or your career profession?
Now at the beginning of this video, we mentioned that we were gonna talk about why we chose not to take the mini early retirement, because it was definitely something that we considered. But because of our situation, we chose to hold on tight and do the full-blown FIRE and retire early permanently.
Now, the main reason why we decided not to do this mini early retirement is because we really couldn't wrap our minds around taking a small break and then having to return to the workforce. We just felt like we couldn't do it mentally. We couldn't take this amazing, maybe 3-year break and then have to return to the workforce. It was very difficult for us to think about actually having to return to the workforce. The other thing for us is that when we calculated our FIRE number and how long it would take for us, we realized that it would take about 10 years for us to reach our FIRE goal. And we also thought about the impacts of taking a mini retirement, the impacts of our investments if we did that. So for us, we thought, why don't we just really hunker down, save as much money as we can, invest as much money as we can over this 10-year period, and then we can retire completely and permanently after that period.
Now, Christina says we hunker down. She makes it sound like we weren't having fun on our journey. But if you know our story, you know that we enjoyed the journey. We traveled all the time. We worked abroad. We worked in Spain and Japan. We tried to do as many things as possible to make sure that even though we were focused on making, saving, and investing money towards FIRE, we had a good time while we were doing it. So you have a decision to make. Are you going to hunker down for the FIRE ultimate permanent retirement, or are you going to take mini early retirements in between? You know, we would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. I mean, how would you plan this out? And so if you like this video, please also give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join the journey.